it's hard to redefine leadership in our lives if we haven't defined it in the first place. And I think that as I work with students, what I discover is so few of you guys actually are experts on yourself. What's weird is that as I work with students all around the country and the world, you guys are your own worst subjects. And I think that if we're going to redefine ourselves as leaders and raise our hands when people ask us for leaders, we need to define ourselves better. And one of the guys I know who's defined himself as well as anybody I know is my boy Michael. And I want to turn it over to him, but I do want to thank you guys for giving me a little time to chat with you. I'll be back in just a few minutes to offer some more advice. But guys, thank you so much, seriously.
Jeez, how do I follow that? Whew. All right. My name is Michael Eisen, and as introduced at the beginning of the day, at the beginning of the session, I run an organization called the Youth Wellness Network. And what I do is I bring wellness programs to schools like this and try to inspire and empower young people of all ages to live a happier and a more positive life. Today I'm going to share with you a little bit about my personal story of how I went through a significant amount of challenges in the first 18 years of my life and reached a breakdown point, and how I was able to empower myself to turn that breakdown into a breakthrough. For me, it all started when I was 2 years old. My mom always would say that the first 2 years of my life was like the quiet before the storm. And when I turned 2, it was like all hell broke loose. I was that kid who, what they would call the spirited child, which basically meant that I didn't listen to anybody, didn't follow any rules, lived life to the beat of my own drum. In fact, there was a joke, still stands in my family, that my terrible 2s came, stayed a little longer, stayed even longer, and finally left when I was 13. I didn't really find it funny either. The challenge is with being this different child, I never felt normal. Everybody wanted me to be normal. Everybody wanted to put me in the box. Said, you got to do this. You got to follow this path. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to live life my own way. And so as a result, I felt different. I felt isolated. I felt misunderstood. And feeling different going into grade school, I was treated differently. I was bullied for the first 5 years of grade school. Picked on verbally, physically. Really started to doubt myself and doubt who I was. Finally, I worked my way up so I could become part of the cool crowd. Grades 6 and 7, things were going well. Discovered I was good at sports, so I claimed my identity to being an athlete. Discovered that I was relatively smart, so I claimed my identity to being smart. And then it all came crashing down when I reached grade 8. And still to this day, I have no idea why. But for some reason, every single one of my friends and every single person in my class decided to abandon me. And I was left completely alone. I would try to go and play soccer on the playground like I would normally do, and they would just completely ignore me, like I didn't even exist. I used to get my mom to drop me off at school right at the bell so I didn't have to face that shame of being alone. I used to hide out in the bathroom, cry to myself saying, why? What did I do to deserve this? Unfortunately, these feelings of isolation and lack of self-esteem and lack of confidence stayed with me. I grew up in a small town similar size to this, Pembroke, Ontario, in the Ottawa Valley. And the challenge is with growing up in a small town, once you kind of get a name, once you get a label, it's hard to shed that. And so I went into high school, and I was still different. I was still isolated, I was still bullied, I was picked on. And so I did my best to just try and fit under the radar, try and slide under the radar. I was constantly judging myself. Had absolutely no confidence, couldn't express myself, couldn't say what I ultimately really wanted to say. And I was so tired of trying to fit in and never getting that respect and that validation that I was longing for. And finally, when I got into grade 11, I became significantly depressed. And I was fed up with it. Why keep trying? So I disconnected from everybody and everything. And I went to school still, and I did the bare minimum. And I would come home and I would park myself in front of the TV and I would try and escape all of my life's challenges in the next TV show. In fact, my savings grace that year was my family dog. And I know this sounds a little corny, but honestly, the only living being that I could trust, the only living being that I could talk to that year was my dog. Because there was no judgment. There was no ridicule. There was no being made fun of. There's no being picked on. No matter what I said to my dog, he would greet me with the same response every time. Understanding eyes and a big lick to my face. Now, honestly, if that's not the perfect formula for a best friend, then what is? Seriously, we all long to have that understanding eyes and a big lick to the face, right? Lay one on me.
I totally. I don't know where you've been.
And so, I went into my grade 12 year, and there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And that light at the end of the tunnel was that if I could just get myself into university, I could leave behind all of my troubles and challenges. Little did I know at the time that those challenges were really coming from within me. But I didn't know that at the time. And so in order to get into good university, I was under the belief system that I had to get good grades. In order to be successful, I had to get good grades. Right? How many of us in this audience have that belief that says good grades equals success? Good. So I put an enormous amount of pressure on myself to get those grades. Because if I didn't get those grades, not only did I not have a chance to move out of that town and put all of my troubles behind me, but it was going to be like life was over. I couldn't do it anymore if I didn't get those grades. Luckily, I was able to get those grades, but they came at a cost. And they came at a cost of my health. And I developed a stomach sickness from all of the pressure that I was putting on myself. Before every single test, I would be running to the bathroom making myself sick. But I worked harder and harder because that was all I knew how to do. All I kept hearing in my head was you got to work hard to get ahead. And you'll be happy once you're successful, once you have all those things. And so I got those grades, and I got into university. And I got into McGill University, which is considered to be a great university, and I was so proud of myself. I said, that's it. I'm leaving behind all of this, moving away, leaving all of you behind. And I move off to Montreal, and I start fresh. Now that first year university was exactly what I needed. It was like my proverbial coming out party. I got a chance to get out of my shell. I got a chance to express myself in a way that I was so scared to do in the first place. I got a chance to meet so many different people of different cultures and different backgrounds. And the best part was that nobody knew who I was. There's no labels. There's no judgment. Just an opportunity to be me. The challenge is I had so much fun, I forgot to study. And that same belief started to surface. And it said, Michael, if you're going to be a success, if you're going to get a degree, get a good job, get all the things in life that are going to make you happy, you've got to get good grades. And you've got to work harder. So I actually started feeling guilty for all the fun that I was having. First time in my life I actually experienced fun at the age of 19, and I felt guilty for it. And so I put that same amount of pressure on myself to succeed and to get those grades. I went into my second year and I said, I got to pull my socks up. I got to prove my value to this planet by getting those grades. The challenge this time was that I wasn't able to get them. I worked so hard, harder than anybody. I was the guy that you would come up to before the test and you would ask a question and I would tell you how to answer it perfectly. But then I would get into the test and I would see something that I didn't know how to answer and I would freak out. Because I had so much riding on getting that grade that how could I make a mistake? How could I get one question wrong? And I blinked. Everything that I tried to cram into my head completely went out the window. I can't even count how many anxiety attacks and panic attacks I had in the middle of exams. And that stomach sickness came back because of the pressure that I was putting on myself. And I would be running to the bathroom now, not only before every exam and presentation that I would be doing, but it started coming in my social life. Before every party, I got so nervous because I just had to show up and be the best that I made myself sick before that. Before every intramural basketball game, it was like my championship game. And I made myself sick before that. And because I didn't get the grades, my self-worth completely plummeted. Because if I wasn't smart anymore, then where was my value coming from? And everything started to pile on top of me. One thing after the next. And the only way that I knew how to respond was just work harder. Work harder, you'll get through it. But the harder I worked, the sicker I got. The more depressed that I got. And the deeper that hole that I was digging for myself got. And finally I reached a boiling point. And luckily there was a voice inside of me, however faint it was at that time. And that voice said, this can't be it. This can't be what life is about. Everybody kept telling me that university was supposed to be the 4 best years of my life. And I was having the absolute worst year of my life. This can't be it. Now synchronistically, as the story goes, I asked for some help. I had no idea how it was going to show up. And it ended up showing up in the most unlikely source. And it showed up in the form of my father. Now a little background on my father. Growing up, he was the type of guy who was your my way or the highway type of guy. Extremely controlling. If you don't follow the rules of my household, then you better not live in my household. And as you know, with my spirited ways, that didn't really mesh well. So we did not have a very good relationship at all. And my dad got to this point in his life when he turned 50. Now here's a man who was emotionally unavailable, was a type A workaholic, running his life under the belief that money equals success and success equals happiness. The only challenge was that he got all the money and he got all the success in his business, but he wasn't happy. And at the age of 50, he started to question the way that he had been living his life. And he went on this radical journey of self-transformation. Hired a life coach. Woke up every morning at 5 a.m. and was meditating and journaling. Was reading all these self-help books. And in a year's time, had so much wisdom that he absorbed in his life, and it started to change his life dramatically, that he decided to become a life coach himself. And it was right around that time that I had reached my breaking point. And I looked to my dad, and I saw the inspired action that he took in his life. And I said, if he can do it at the age of 50, then I've got to be able to do it at the age of 19. And it was that moment that I made a choice. And that choice was to make a change. That choice was to not live the life that I was living. So I signed up, and I became my dad's first student. And I put aside all the personal differences that I had with him in my childhood, and I said, whatever you got going on, I want some of that. And the first thing that he taught me was that awareness creates choice, and choice creates change. If I wanted to change anything in my life, I needed to be the one that made that choice. Nobody was going to come and do it for me. I had to be empowered enough to make different choices. But before I was able to be empowered, I had to be more aware. Aware of myself. Aware of my thoughts. Aware of my words. And aware of my actions. And how all three of those were creating the experiences that I was having. And when I first learned this, this completely blew my mind. The idea that I had the ability to create something different in my life completely rocked my world. Because all of a sudden, all of the sickness and the worry and the stress and the pressure and the anxiety that I was feeling, I realized that I was creating. And if I was creating all of that, then I could create something different. I could create more happiness in my life. I could create more purpose and more passion. The second thing that he taught me, and I've simplified it in a formula up here, is that life equals learning plus growth. What if the purpose of life, what if why we're all here is to simply learn and grow and evolve as a person? What if all those achievements and accolades and grades and everything that we're striving for, that we think is going to make us happy, what if all of them become completely insignificant unless we're learning and we're growing? And this started to shift the way that I was seeing life. How many of us study specifically for the goal to get a good grade? Okay. I was studying for the grades, and only the grades. And what I learned from this was, if I'm here to learn and I'm here to grow, then why can't I just study to learn instead of study for the grades? I know it's kind of a foreign concept to some of us. And I started applying that. And I started learning. I started studying just to learn. And I didn't become so attached to my GPA or the grades that I was getting. And I saw everything as a new experience and a new opportunity to learn and to grow. And what happened was that pressure that I was putting on myself started to disappear. Because if the grades didn't mean everything to me, and it was more about the learning and the growing, then a lot of that anxiety and a lot of that pressure just started to melt away. And the last lesson that I want to share with you that I learned early on is that life is a journey, it's not a destination. I was spending the majority of my time focusing on one event, to the next event, to the next event. It was all about, when that test is over, I'll be happy. Then I can relax. When I finish that presentation, everything will go away. I put so much significance on each milestone, whether it was the next test, the next basketball game, the next party. Everything had so much significance. And the challenge was I was missing what was in between. I would get to the destination, and I would maybe feel relaxed for like a day, and then I felt so awkward that I had to put my focus on the next one. And I missed the journey. And I want to share one of my favorite quotes. Life is a gift, and it's to be savored in every step of the way. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today, this present moment, is the greatest gift of all. And I stopped focusing on what potentially might be coming in the future, and I just focused on being present right now in today. And the one thing that I realized is that life, it's full of ups and downs and all arounds and twists and turns. We may as well enjoy the ride. And I started to put all these lessons into practice in my life. I started to change the way that I was thinking. I started to change the way that I was speaking. I started to change the way that I was acting. And as a result, all of my experiences started to change. The depression completely melted away within 6 months of putting this stuff into practice in my life. The stomach sickness was a thing of the past. And I was experiencing consistent and sustained moments of happiness. All because I found that happiness within myself. I wasn't putting that significance on anything outside anymore. Now, me and Drew are going to share with you what I call the toolbox of practices. We've both shared our own personal stories, our own personal triumphs. And what we want to do is we want to leave you here today with something actually practical. Something that you can take away, store in your back pocket, and pull out when you need it. Tools that are going to actually help you start to create positive change in your life right now. Are we excited for that? Give me a little enthusiasm. Come on, are we excited for that? Okay, Drew's going to kick it off with the first practice.
Thanks, guys. Jason's grandma. Life is better the fewer times you have to say I'm sorry. And I think what I've discovered is that life gets better the more times you hear it. And I don't mean, what I mean by that is people say I'm sorry a lot, but we don't hear it quite that often. One of the things that made my life amazing, and what I'm still working on because it's so hard, is forgiving. And not just other people, but yourself. We spend so much time being like, I wish I'd done that better, or there's nothing more powerful than doing something good for yourself every day. Like, you can't add value to other people till you add value to yourself. So do something good for yourself every day. Watch the crappy TV show. Read this trashy book. Like, I still watch Grey's Anatomy because it makes me ridiculously happy. I don't know why. Like, eat the cookie. You can't add value till you add value to yourself, which is what I think every time I eat cheesecake. It's like, this is going to be so valuable for somebody else. You want to know the best thing that you can do for yourself every day? One good thing is forgive yourself and forgive your friends. Like, it's as simple as that. It's so hard to forgive yourself, and it's even harder to forgive your friends. But I'm 35 years old, guys, and that story about Jason is not isolated. I've buried 15 of my friends, and I've been to 4 of their weddings. That's a really weird ratio. So I've lost too many friends in ways that I cannot control to not tell every audience I talk to. If you can save a friendship by either saying I'm sorry or hearing I'm sorry, please do it. And it's a lot harder to hear I'm sorry than sometimes it is to say it. If almost everyone in this room has somebody that you wish was still in your life. You have somebody that adds value to your life, and they're not in your life right now, and the only reason they're not in it is because you won't say I'm sorry or you won't hear I'm sorry. Guys, if you can save a friendship by doing one of those two things. If there's someone in your life right now who's not in your life anymore, and it could be back if you'd say it or you'd hear it, do it. Forgiveness in our life makes our life better. And that one simple thing, go and fix whatever relationship you wish could come back right now. And do it today. Because they'll make your life better. That's the first thing we wanted to kick off and talk about today. Bring forgiveness back into your life, guys. Pushing your friends away for some stupid thing only makes your life worse. Good, man?
Sweet. Second practice we want to share with you. Something that I call positive affirmations. What an affirmation is that every thought that you think and every word that you speak is an affirmation. And essentially, every thought that you think and word that you speak is creating the experiences that you are having on a day-to-day basis. So, what positive affirmations do is we transform our negative and our fear-based thoughts into ones of positive support, love, encouragement. How many of us spend most of our time trying to look to get validation, respect, understanding, love, encouragement from everybody in our lives? Would we agree that we all want to be understood? We all want to be respected? Yeah? Would we agree to that? Right. You take a look at the word self-esteem. What's the first word? Do you ever wonder why we spend most of our time trying to get our self-esteem from everywhere except for ourselves? Do you ever think about it that way? Why is it that you determine my self-worth? Why is it that I need validation from everybody else in order for me to feel better about myself? Self-esteem and self-worth need to begin from right here, right inside of yourself. And how do we start doing that? We start transforming the thoughts that we're thinking and the words that we are speaking into positive affirmations. So I'll give you an example. Every time that you say, I'm going to fail, how does that make you feel? Not very good, right? Brings up fear. Okay? How many times when you have a thought, you create another thought, and you create another thought, and before you know it, there's a story in your mind, and that becomes your reality? Yeah, show of hands if we've had that experience. Okay, so we can create a new reality with positive affirmations. And we can start filling ourselves up with that respect and that validation and that encouragement all within ourselves. First thing that I say to myself every morning, and I know that this is incredibly cheesy, but it works. I get up, well actually before I get up, I do a nice big stretch, and I thank my bed for an amazing night's sleep. Right? How many of us have ever done that before?
Doing it.
Amazing. Amazing. 1, 2 people. What's your normal response when you get out of bed? Oh, crap. Seriously, another day? Do I got to go to school today? Oh, I got to press the sleep button. I got to sleep more. What kind of message are we giving? A negative message. So how do we transform that? Even if you don't believe it. As Muhammad Ali once said, it's repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. So you start reprogramming what's going on in your mind until you finally believe it to be the truth, and then it becomes your truth. Next thing that I say to myself every morning, I walk myself over to the mirror, and I say, I love you, Michael. I really, really love you. I know, it's incredibly corny. Trust me. And it's super awkward. Incredibly awkward. Totally. But it works. You want to know what I say every time before I get up in front of a crowd and I speak? I walk myself in front of the mirror and I say, I am an amazing speaker. Anytime that doubt creeps into mine, I turn I can't do it into I can do it. The more I repeat that I'm amazing, the more that I repeat that I love myself, the more that I repeat that I can do it, I believe it, and I actually start to see that in my life. Positive affirmations start to increase your self-worth and your self-esteem. And it can be so simple. Just turn that negative statement into a positive one and repeat it over and over and over again. And the more that you say this out loud to yourself, the more you believe it, and the more your experiences start to reflect that. The next practice that I want to share with you is having an attitude of gratitude. Frozen? Oh, there we go. An attitude of gratitude. And what this means is that how many of us spend most of our time focusing on all the things that we don't have? Or all the things that we really want to have? And spend very little time focusing on all of the amazing things that we already have. An attitude of gratitude is being grateful for everything that you already have in your life and realizing that you already have so much. What I do is every day I wake up and I write my daily gratitude list. And it's very simple. And I want to encourage you to start doing this practice. It's very simple. All you got to do is every morning write down 5 things that you're grateful for. 5 things. Really not difficult. It can be, I am grateful for clean water. I am grateful for clothes. I am grateful to have an education. I'm grateful for friends. The more you become grateful for all of the things that are in your life, the more that becomes ingrained as your attitude. What we focus on, we get more of. If If you focus on all the things that you already have in your life, you're going to get more of them. If you focus on all the things that you don't have, you will continue to not get those things. Have an attitude of gratitude, and your life will start to positively transform one step at a time.
I want to close with a story, because I tell stories. Thank you. And I'm going to thank my bed tonight. Because usually I don't thank my bed, I beg my alarm clock. You ever done this one? Here's the deal I will make with you, alarm clock. If you just stop for like 15 minutes, don't move, I will not throw you across the room. I'm going to look in the mirror before every presentation and say, you are an amazing speaker, and as these wonderful women over here pointed out, and is your fly done up? Thank you very much for saving me earlier today. Here is my last story today. I know it was awful. Give an unexpected gift every day. That doesn't mean that you've got to empty your bank account buying stuff. And you're like, that's 365 things I got to give away a day, Drew. That's not the case. I was once in line at a grocery store. I went on a Saturday. Never go to a grocery store on a Saturday. It's a circus. It's Cirque du Soleil in the grocery store. And I got in a 25-person lineup. And have you ever had a cashier who's a ninja? You know how some people have to beep everything 3 times? This girl was like, she was a ninja. And everybody in line was a jerk. Like this noise. No, first of all, if you're ever in the service industry, and some of you probably are already, and someone makes that noise, I think we should be allowed to taser them. And everybody does that. And then I get up to the line, and it's been 20 minutes, and you know when someone's just about to snap? Like there's water at the bottom of their eyes and like the lips are going a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do something for this woman. So I turn to the candy rack, which I enjoy, and I say, hey, which of these chocolates are the best? And she snaps at me and she goes, the caramels are awesome. I'm like, oh, excuse me. Put them down, and she beeps everything through, and then she goes to beep the caramels, and I'm like, actually, those are for you. I bought those for you. You look like you're having a terrible day, so I wanted you to have those. Like, I wanted to make her smile. I was willing to drop $2 to make the cashier smile. She starts to cry. Not what I was going for. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, because now I'm the guy, and there's 20 people in line, and all they see is her crying. And me going, now I'm the jerk. But she's like, no, it's just no one's even been polite to me today, and you bought me chocolates. I don't know what to do. And I thought it would be some nothing, right? But I thought about it, man, when she goes home to a house I don't know where it is, to a husband I'm not sure she has, to kids I will invent for the purpose of this story. And they ask her, how was your day? Up until that point, she was probably going to snap at them and make their day worse. Now, no matter if nothing else good happened all day, I bet she leads with, this guy did the nicest thing. It's so easy to do those. How many of those moments, those unexpected gifts, present themselves to us at school, with our friends, with our families? Have you ever bought a present for someone for no reason? Not birthday, not Christmas? And you just see it and you're like, that's awesome. You know the hour before you give it to them? You know how you're just like, this is gonna, like, you're so excited? My whole life is like that. Because there's so many of those moments around the corner, unexpected gifts. Be helpful every day. And helpful doesn't mean you help people do stuff. Helpful means you help people feel things. Guys, forgive people. Love what you have. Say good things to yourself and believe them. Forgive yourself, forgive your friends, and find a way to give somebody a gift every day. It's as simple as being like, dude, those glasses are awesome, and I wish I had them. All right, little stuff like that every day changes things. Guys, work incredibly hard to make your grades extraordinary. Work hard to make your grades great. Your grades will open doors for you. They will kick down doors for you. You should work incredibly hard to make sure your grades are amazing. And then, folks, I want you to work twice as hard to make sure that they are the least impressive thing about you. If you do that, I think success and happiness are going to follow you all the days of your life. Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Peace, guys, all right?